afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon edition of the Sports Corner with the Conn Man. I have with me a very special guest, a longtime legendary basketball coach at Bishop Conley High School. He goes by the name of William Shea. While he comes on, my man has had a historical career as a player, and I don't even know how many years he's been coaching. I have no idea. When he comes on, I'm sure he'll tell you. But folks, I don't want to, reveal too much, but as a player, I can attest, my man was one of the greatest shooters to ever come out of the South Coast area. He wasn't fast, he wasn't quick, he couldn't jump, but the man could shoot. And you know what? I had the fortune or misfortune of playing against him. And so I can attest firsthand how good he really was. And also, he then went on to become a high school coach at Bishop Conley High School, again, where he was coaching for who knows how many years. And again, I meet up with him because I was a basketball official and I officiated his games. And, he was a tough, he was very, let's put it this way, energetic, aggressive while he was coaching. And he kind of let the referees know, some things. But fortunately, he didn't give me a hard time at all. So that was a good thing, But Coach Shea, he does a lot of things on his videos. He's on YouTube. Again, I don't want to bring up too many things that he does, but he does some. He has his own YouTube channel, and he talks about ownership and so many other things that I want him to talk about, and not me. But while we're waiting for him to come on, just looking back on Coach Shea. He's been a mentor for so many in the Fall River community, and I wanted to get his take because him, like myself, I've been around the block. I've been following the game since 1972, locally and nationally as well. So I got to see everybody. I damn near, you name an NBA ball player, I damn seen them. Unless they were in the early 50s or the early 60s, I done saw Oscar Robinson, Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Sam Jones, you name them, I done seen them. So I have a view, and of course, a lot of the local players that have been referees for 7 years. And we have we did it for 40 years. We had some of the most unbelievable talent coming through this area, and I got to see a lot of players. And when I was playing, and before I went to college, there were some real big time tournaments in the Boston area. And I got to, meet and play against some really great players in the Boston area. And then when I went on to Framingham State, we had a contingent of Boston players. So, it was a very interesting time. I got one story I want to tell you real quick while we're waiting on Coach Shea. Hopefully he comes on. I went to Framingham State, and they had a guy by the name of Ron Hobbs. Y'all may not know him, but his brother was Kyle Hobbs. Kyle Hobbs went to the Burke, and then he went on to play at Cambridge, Range and Latin with some guy. I think his name was Pat Ewing. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, he went with a guy. He played on the team with Pat Ewing, and of course, they only lost one game that year. I think 2 years, matter of fact. Well, his brother Ron, we became real good friends, and Ron was a phenomenal basketball player as well. And what we would do is he would take me into the Boston games, and I would have him come over, stay at my crib, and I would, go out there and hang. Anyway, he took me to a Cambridge Range and a Latin game where Pat Ewing was playing. I don't know if that was his junior year. It might have been his junior year. And I'm telling you, folks, it was incredible. I went to a small Bishop Stang High School. So crowd would be about 300, maybe, on a great day. And then I ended up going to go see Cambridge Range and Latin, and the place was, you couldn't breathe. You could not breathe. And they had the cheerleaders going berserk. It was, I ain't never seen anything like that in my life. It was such a great experience. And, it was crazy. And what was funny, too, is when I was in college, fast forward, there was a club called, let me get it, Nine Lansdowne. And I go, we all there. Matter of fact, we're celebrating my birthday. So we're out there in the club. I forgot who was the performer. I can't remember. She had a big hit at that time. And what's funny? I go in the bathroom, I go in the men's room, and guess who walks in? Pat Ewing. I'll never forget what he had on. He had a red shirt, he had jeans and black shoes. I don't know why I remember that. But anyway, because when Pat Ewing came down here and played at New Bedford, the recreation department, I kind of like was showing him around, and we talked a lot, and I guess we became good friends. He remembered me, which I thought was kind of special in itself. And we all know what kind of career Pat Ewing had. Kyle Hobbs went on to assistant coach at BU, assistant coach at UConn with one of my best friends in the world, Dave Lato. Then he went to George Washington. Then he went to Rutgers, and right now he's at University of Georgia Tech with Stoudemire, the one that guy that played with the Toronto Raptors. And that was kind of a great experience. But getting back talking about Coach Shea, if he comes on, like I said, when you do podcasts like this, you never know what's going to happen. He was all in, and I don't know, we might have to reschedule him. But I wanted him to come on because he did a video. And in that video, he discussed about commitment. And he talks about, if you really want to play the game, you got to put that commitment in. And he talks step by step about being competitive and competing and, no distractions and, how much hard work. He said, you can get 10 players in the gym. You might find one that will really be dedicated. And the 9 other ones that you never know. But, those that put the time and the effort in, it pays dividends in the long run. And I think that's a great thing. I want him to discuss that. He also wanted to talk about his dad. He called his dad a genius. And he really wanted to come on and talk about his dad. And I was going to give him the opportunity to do that as well. So, hopefully he comes on. I don't know. Again, when you do these podcasts, you never know. Again, I think this is my 4th year doing these podcasts. I'm not going to stay on too long because if you don't come on, I'm not going to waste your time. But I wanted to explain my thought about Coach Shea because I was growing up, we had a lot of great players out here in Massachusetts, and we had an abundance of God. We had an abundance of God. So when area. I want to get his take because I didn't seen everybody, like I told you. I wanted to get his take on who he thought was, some of the best players that have come out that he has seen. I was going to ask him the best players he played with and the best players he played against. That's always a good question. But, I was always wanting to get him on the show because, he's very, very knowledgeable. If you ever watch his videos, my man, to this day, can hit like 40 in a row. You think I'm lying? Go check out his YouTube. He's still doing it, at his age. And I think right now he has since left Bishop Conley. He's now like an assistant coach at Bishop's thing, my alma mater. Oh boy. But anyway, again, I won't see you too long. But while I'm here, what I would like to talk about and I'm excited about is the courtside view. Folks, you got to tune in. It is entertaining, to say the least. Very knowledgeable individuals that we talk about relevant, up-to-date topics. What about the NBA? And we have some very knowledgeable guests. And it is definitely entertaining. We discuss. I'm not going to talk about what we're going to discuss tomorrow, but we got some good topics we're going to discuss tomorrow. And we're going to have a great time. You guys got to tune in at 9 o'clock. It's live. We should have between maybe 3 or 4 guests, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7. You never know. But the people who come on are very knowledgeable. They really care about basketball, and they all have their favorite teams. Me, I really don't have a favorite team. And I'll tell you why. Because, a lot of times people can get, I guess, what would be the word I would use? one site. That's their team. That's it. Me, because I do a show, because I can look at things objectively. I'd rather be the way I am as far as I can see things uh, totally, and not just because that was my favorite team. Although I'm gonna get heat from the viewers. Although I did have a favorite team at one point. You guys gonna get mad, but I don't give it. My man was well. First of all, let me go back. Let me go back to the early '60s, since I am a historian. I'm probably gonna go on about 15 more minutes, maybe, and then I'll close up if you don't call. I'm just waiting for the show, so I'm just checking their time. Back in I think my first recollection of basketball was the rivalry between the Celtics and the 76ers, specifically Bill Russell versus Wilt Chamberlain. Now, in my neighborhood, of course, I live in the Boston area, so everybody's a Boston Celtics fan. But I kind of fell in love with Wilt Chamberlain. To me, he just was amazing. And of course, people out here down here were saying Russell was better than Wilt Chamberlain. Well, folks, let me tell you something right quick. Russell could not compare to Wilt Chamberlain. I'm going to get a lot of heat. Russell won 11 rings, I know. But if you look statistically, it's 100 points again, average 50 points a season. He had every damn near record known to man offensively. Now, Russell had I think he had 6 or 7 Hall of Fame players on his team. People forget that. You know what I mean? Now, you put Russell on the 76ers and put Wilt with the Celtics, what would happen? He might not score as much, obviously, but I guarantee they still would have won. And you know what? Even Bill Russell said that Wilt was way better than him. Russell was a better defender. Here we go. My man's in the building. Okay.
Mike.
Well, folks, I have with me a very special guest, legendary high school basketball coach at Bishop Conley, Coach William Shea. How you doing, Coach?
Mike, I'm sorry I'm late. I've been here the last 10 minutes trying to figure this technology out. I know basketball, but I don't know technology. So I had to have my daughter come in and save me. But I didn't want you to think I blew you off, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, it happens. I'm not very technical whiz myself. Now, Coach, before we go into what we discussed, for the viewers who do not know about you, can you talk about your journey from the beginning of you playing basketball?
Well, as far as basketball goes, I didn't start playing basketball until I was in 7th grade. So I was kind of a late bloomer. My father was a baseball coach. So I was, basically born a baseball player. Like I never remember not being pretty good in baseball. But in basketball, I didn't start. My first team I played on was 7th grade. And it was because I transferred to a Catholic school, St. Peter and Paul, and the big sport was basketball. So I was like, hey, man, that's the sport. I'm going to play it. And I just kind of like fell in love with it. And I was okay. I was on a B team in 7th grade. I made the A team in 8th grade. But when I went to high school, I really got a slap in the face. When I got to high school, I was 10th man on the freshman team, points a game, and I was struggling. And I just made a decision that I didn't like sitting on a bench. It was the first time I ever sat on a bench, and I really didn't like it. And so I decided to do something about it. And so I did. And I was baseball season. After my freshman year of basketball was baseball season. And at the time, I was a much better baseball player than basketball player. But I decided I'm going to make 100 shots a day, every day. So during baseball season, I would go to school. I would go to practice, come home, eat, and then I'd go in my yard and I would shoot. And I actually started making 150 shots a day. And that would take me about a half an hour. And I would do an hour on the weekend. So I was making about 1,500 shots a week. And I did that for like 4 months. And that summer, I was a different person. I was a different player. I was, I had like come into my own, as a basketball player. And from
Uh-huh.
there, it just kind of like took off. I ended up starting varsity. I mean, I had never scored more than 10 points in a game in my life. My sophomore year. So my goal was to make the JV as a sophomore, uh, be a swing player as a junior, and be a varsity starter as a senior. That was my plan. Not very ambitious, but I really like worked at it. And my sophomore year, I was already half and half. So the beginning of the year, I was already swinging. So I was like, oh, this is great. And then the first game, I got 17 points in 2 quarters. And I was
Oh.
like, whoa, And then the next game, it was against Durfee at the Armory, and I got 20 in 2 quarters. And I was like, whoa. So I'm doing the math. I'm like, hey, man, if I played the whole game, that's 40. You know what I mean? Uh, and then the next game, I had 25 in 2 quarters and a half in overtime. And the fourth game of the year, I started varsity. And so I started varsity that from that fourth game on, and I ended up having all the scoring records and all that stuff. So my basketball journey was a little bit unusual, but it was all about like what I wanted.
Now, after high school, what happened then?
Okay, so in high school, I got a scholarship to an NAIA school, Walsh College in Canton, Ohio. So that was kind of interesting. I got signed by a coach. Now, NAIA, they give like they'll give half scholarship type of thing. And they wanted me to go out there for a half scholarship, and I wouldn't. I'm like, I'm not going out to Ohio for a half a scholarship. I'll go for
Mhm.
a full scholarship. And then they gave me a full scholarship. So I went out there, and the coach that signed me, that gave me that full scholarship, he left to go to another school.
Oh.
So when I went out there, the coach wasn't feeling me, you know what I mean? And so he told me after like the first week I was there, he said, "Hey man, you're not going to play, you know." So I said, "That's okay." He goes, "What?" He goes, "What do you mean that's okay?" I said, "It's up to you whether you want to play me, but I got a full scholarship. I'm staying." You know what I mean? He wanted me to
Mm.
transfer. I said, "I got a full scholarship. I'm staying." Okay. And so he did everything he could try to run me out of there, but I just, no, man, I'm getting a free year of college. So I did that. Actually, an interesting side note to that was when that coach got fired. So that coach got fired right at the end of the season. And the coach that they hired at Walsh was Bob Huggins. Uh,
Oh.
ended up
Okay.
coaching at Kansas State and West Virginia and Cincinnati. And so Huggins came in, and I remember Huggins, he had a tournament, and it was freshman, sophomore, junior tournament. And like all these guys were like sick of the season, but I was like hyped, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'll get out there and really play, right? I like uh, dominated this tournament. And Huggins called me in his office, and he was like, "You must have been a real prick not to play on this team." You know what I mean? And then I explained to him, the situation. This wasn't the coach that signed me. He tried to run me out. And so Huggins wanted me to come back, but he wanted me to take a half scholarship, and I wouldn't do it. So I ended up leaving. But I knew, like, I told the guys who were saying, I'm like, this guy is serious, like, because the coach we had was, he wasn't a great coach. But after like a month of hanging with Huggins and experiencing him, I was like, this guy is serious and he ain't playing around. You know what I'm saying?
You know about him.
Yeah. So from there, I went to UMass Amherst. And when I got there, I started playing in the gym, and I got to the courts. They had the glass courts where all the better players played. So I ended up hooking up. I don't know if you know Billy Bano.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Billy Bano was there, and I kind of got friendly with him. And through him, the assistant coaches from the team were like approaching me because the 3-point line was just coming out at that
Mm.
time.
Mhm.
So they saw me play, and the assistant coach, Ron Gerlison, asked me to, said, hey, come to the tryout. And I was like, not because of my experience, when you're playing college basketball, that's a job, man. Like,
Yes.
like
Mhm.
they got your time from 6 in the morning to 9 at night. And it's like I had no social life, and I was like, it's a big commitment. So and there was a lot of times when I was on scholarship, like I never would have gone to practice if I wasn't on scholarship. I was like, I'm so damn tired all the time. I was like, it was tough. And so I wasn't like really thinking about like playing, committing all that time, to be a bench guy. I had just done that, you know what I mean? But eventually I did go to the tryout, and actually, a little New Bedford connection. Tony DePina was at UMass at the time.
Yeah.
And so Tony, he had played the year before, and now a new coach had come in, and it was this guy, Tom McLaughlin. And so I guess Tony had some issues the year before, so they were making him try out. So
Mm.
Tony was at the tryout, I was at the tryout, and they were taking three guys, and so they took Tony, they took this kid Gary Scarborough, who was very athletic, and I thought I was going to be the third guy, and they called out this other kid's name, and I was like, oh damn, all right, okay, so. I didn't make it. So I was like leaving, and the assistant coach, Gerlison, came over to me and he's like, Billy, don't you want to know why you didn't make it? I was like, yeah, I guess. Well, why didn't I make it? He said, well, the kid that they picked, he was he went to the same high school as one of the other assistant coaches, so they ended up
Mm.
like
Mhm.
taking him. So I was like,
Yeah.
that's cool. You know what I mean? That's fine.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I
Right.
just went and kind of did my thing. But I used to play. Another New Bedford connection was the intramurals there was insane. So the championship team was a football team. So and one of their best players was Dwayne Lopes. So
Ah,
Dwayne Lopes,
okay.
man, that guy when I was in high school, New Bedford used to throw the triangle and two or the box and one at me, and I'd have Dwayne Lopes, Eric Brito, and Martin Roby in my face. I was like, oh man. So like we played against Dwayne. So they beat us. So I had some of my boys from Conley were there, Johnny O'Neill, my cousin Mike, Timmy Gowan. So it was like five of us that played high school ball together at Conley. And we were at UMass, and we had an intramural team. And the first year, there was 125 teams. We ended up in the final against, it was GQ was the name of their team, GQ. And Lopes it was all the football team. And we lost the first year to them by 2 points. And then the second year, we beat them in the finals, and we beat, which, I've had a lot of good wins. That one was sweet, because we beat Division I athletes, man. These guys were like Division I
Yeah.
athletes. And,
Yeah.
Gary Pearson, he was the all-time leader.
Mhm. Back. I know.
You had Dwayne Lopes, you had Max Jones. I mean, these guys were like studs, and those little forward boys, we got them, and so it was that was my basketball, my college basketball experience.
Now, I was telling folks before you came on what a tremendous shooter you were, and I experienced it firsthand. I let them know that. So I know you played in a lot of leagues and did all that. What got you into coaching?
Well, my father was the freshman coach when I got out of college. My father was the freshman coach at Conley, and he asked me. He was a baseball guy. My father, not really a basketball guy, but he was good for a freshman program because he knew how to run a team. He knew how to connect with kids. He knew how to coach. He didn't really know the game, but he knew how to coach. He knew how to run a team. That's how to teach kids how to be teammates and all that stuff. But he needed a little bit of basketball expertise. So I started joining him, and I just kind of really liked it. I liked working with kids. I liked helping kids develop, and we were successful. And I don't know, I just kind of like my father got me into it, and I coached freshmen for 3 years, and the JV job opened. I coached JV for 2 years. Then the varsity job opened, so I grabbed it in 1990. I got the varsity job.
Well, now, before we go into your high school career, you wanted to talk about your dad.
Yeah.
Let the viewers know about your dad.
Well, my father helped him and a group of friends. They started Little League in Fall River in 1951. So my
Oh,
father coached Russ Gibson, who was a major leaguer for the Red Sox, played on the
mhm.
'67 Red Sox. He was a catcher. And my father coached all like the great athletes in Fall River, like in the late '50s, early '60s. And so he was always, he's always, and everybody knew him. When I was a little kid and I go somewhere with him, Shifty, Shifty, Shifty. That was his nickname, Shifty, right? Shifty, Shifty, Shifty. Everybody knew him, and everybody knew him through baseball. So he was a genius in a sense that as a sports parent, he didn't worry about results. What he did was he taught me and my brother how to fall in love with competition, to learn how to be a good teammate, to earn the trust of your coach, and all these things that he taught us. And he never ever ever judged us. He never. His tone was always the same, man. I remember from the time I was 8 years old. Hey, we win. He'd say, "Hey, that was a good game. Nice job." If we lost, he'd say, "Hey, that was a tough one. Get him next time." He was never way up, never way down. It was
Yeah.
never. I just really, really, he put us in such a great mental place that we could actually enjoy the game. And that's why I did my YouTube channel, Mike, because I see parents and I think they mean well, and they think they're doing the right thing, but they're taking a really a tough approach, like for the kids. And I think we're taking a lot of the fun out of it. We got 10-year-old kids that are, grinding. You're not gonna be grinding, man. Like look to get better, try to enjoy the game, get your skill level up, compete, and so the thing that my father did for me and my brother was he gave us ownership of what we're doing. When I was 8 years old, like my father knew, hey, everybody knows I'm a coach, and he knew I knew about baseball, right? So he told me and my brother the same thing. Hey, you don't have to play sports. If you don't want to play sports, you don't have to play sports. I'm going to love you whether, you play sports or not. If you're going to play, here's how it works. The best players play. Oh, excuse me. Coaches want to win. The best players play. You want to be one of the best players, you got to work on your own. And so that's what we live by. But we couldn't complain about playing time. Like I've never complained about playing time to my father because we already knew what he's going to say. Well, I guess you got to get better. I guess you got to get better. And he gave us ownership of what we were doing. He never required me to do anything. Never. Like when I did that 100 shots, 150 shots a day, like he didn't even know I was doing. I mean, we had ownership of what we were doing, the good and the bad, and he just guided us through it. He was, I think parents like when I don't think they realize how sensitive kids are to, especially a father who's criticizing their son over a stupid game. Like, I don't think they realize what that does to a kid. Like having your father disappointed in you over a game. That's stupid. That's stupid.
It's really, and coach, you know something? By you bringing that up, I had Dr. Heather Locken on my show 3 times, matter of fact, and she talked about mental performance, mental health performance, and she mentioned something that I know you're going to relate to: the ride home. And I was like, what do you mean the ride home? And what she meant was, that ride home from if you had a bad game, or what I mean, you're sitting in the back seat as a kid, and your parents or parent, you know, criticized you, and again, that goes with the mental. And now you being a coach, I know you can relate to that as well.
like I have a video on my YouTube channel, the car ride home, and I talk about the car ride home. Like if people go on that YouTube channel, you're gonna see videos that totally will connect with parents and kids. Like the car ride home one, I talk about the 5 things that my father used to do on the car ride home. And the first one was he would never say anything until I spoke. Like he would never get into the game. If I didn't want to talk about the game, we didn't talk about the game. So when I was a kid, uh, 8, 9, 10 years old, I always, I would start the conversation always because my father had opened. I knew I wasn't going to get criticized. I knew he wasn't going to dump on me. I knew I was going to learn something. So I would. He made the communication channels open so that I wanted to ask him questions. I wanted to talk to him.
Right, right.
But the interesting part was when I get into high school. So when I was a kid, that was great. But when I get into high school, it was different. Like when I was a junior in high school, we were 5-15. And I was the best player on the team. And I'm like, I'm not into talking about the game. I have the game. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of silent rides home my junior year. That's for sure. But on the ride home, yeah, if kids know when they get in the car, it's going to be, why didn't you do this? And how come now? How many times I got to tell you this? Then the next step is not going to want to get in the car, and when you do that, you're closing down the lines of communication. You're criticizing, you're judging, and it's like if you went to work every day and then you were being filmed and you came home and your wife and your kids said, Dad, why'd you do this at work? Why didn't you do that? Why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? I mean, who wants that? You know what I mean? Like, who wants being constantly evaluated all the time? So let the kid play the game, come home and get something to eat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a game. You know what I mean? It's just a game.
What I wanted to do before we go on about your coaching, I wanted to ask you, I was talking about it before you came on. I want to ask you, because you've been around the block just like me, and you've seen a lot of years of basketball just like me. I'm going to ask you a question. Two parts. Who was the best player you played with, and who was the best player you played against?
Oh, okay. So you're talking about high school locally? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about like when I was in college and stuff like that?
I'm more talking about, I want to talk more about the high school level.
Okay. All right. I would say high school level, my sophomore year. I mean, I played against Durfee, Kenny Viola, and Kevin Whiting. Those guys in high school were like the top players. So it's funny because when I said earlier how when I was a freshman, my freshman year season ended in February of my freshman year. I was 10th man on the freshman team. That same December, January, the following January, so less than a calendar year later, I was starting varsity against Kenny Viola and Kevin Whiting in front of a sold out Bishop Conley High School. Like I was a nervous wreck, you know what I mean? But I would say Kevin and Kenny, they're Division I players. New Bedford, of course, like I went against when I was a sophomore. They had Hauser. And I'll tell you one guy, okay, who you'll know, who kicked my ass more than anybody was Mike Fields.
Mikey Fields. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Mike Fields. So I played against Mike Fields when I was a sophomore, but he was just like he was a starting guy. Him and Gary Dias were the starting guys for Bedford. Very quick, good, but they weren't the stars of the team, And then Mike Fields went to BCC. And so BCC used to practice at Conley. They would practice after us. So Dave Houtman was playing with them. I was playing with them. Mike Fields. And Mike Fields, like, he was averaging 28 a game for the JUCO. He was like an All-American. And we would have to, like, scrimmage them. So I could do a whole practice, and then we'd have to scrimmage against them. And Mike Fields was like, kill me, man. Like, that dude would just, oh, man. Yeah, so I'd say Mike Fields probably kicked my ass more than anybody, like walking the earth. I'd say Mike Fields probably kicked my ass more than anybody. And, the guy that I enjoyed playing with most was like my cousin Mike, who I played with in high school. We were a god combination, and we were like fire and ice. I was like a hothead type guy. He was like calm. I was a shooter. He could drive. We complimented each other very, very well. Yeah, so I would say, and John O'Neill, who also was a teammate of mine, we went through war together, so I have a certain connection and bond with them. They weren't the most talented. They were talented, but they weren't the most talented guys I played with, but they were my boys.
Now let's talk about your coaching career. How many years did you actually coach at Bishop Conley?
I was at Conley for varsity 30. Varsity 30, and I had, like I said, JV. I had JV for 2 years. I had freshman for 3, so it was a long time.
Now, I mean, of course, you are well respected throughout the community. Everybody knows who you are. What are your fondest memories being a coach at Bishop Conley?
I mean, of course, you think about the big games that you won. Those are always, good memories. But we had a couple teams there that what we used to do a lot was, in the situation we were in a tough league, right? So we're playing Attleboro, Dartmouth, and we were in a tough league at the time, especially in the '90s. So we would have a tough year. So I'd have like a 4-16 season with some young guys, and then have 2 really good, right? Have a couple 15-5s, So I think that's the most satisfying thing I got out of coaching, was taking kids who were, down here and getting them to like be on the team, and experiencing that with them, going through the tough times, and then you enjoy the good times, and you get to the good times, you appreciate it more. And I just like that feeling of bringing kids from a low point to a higher point that they really not sure they can even get to, and watching them develop their confidence. That's the payoff, coach. Watching them. As my father gave ownership to my sport, I tried to give ownership to my players. I tried to give them as much to the team as I could, to get them to the point where they could practically run their own. That's what I used to try to do. Not always successful, but that's what I tried to do.
Now, to be there 30 years and going through some of the hard times, was it difficult to return the following year?
No, it wasn't. Like, I remember the first 10 years, it was no problem. And then, after 10 years, when the season's over, you're kind of like, all right, that was rough. Do I want to do this again? And then, a month later, yeah, of course I want to do it. I mean, there's tough times, but you're always looking ahead. So sometimes it's just part of the deal. That's the way I looked at it. Like, okay, as long as I could see a light at the end of the tunnel, the tough times are just part of the deal.
Now, you had some outstanding players that play for you. Would you like to talk a little bit about them?
Sure. I think I had 8,000 point scorers in 30 years. But some of my better players weren't, getting 1,000 points is as much situation as talent. You got to stay healthy. You got to. Most guys got to play for 3 years. That type of thing. But I mean, we've been known for our guard play over the years. had Matt Kerr, Ryan Phelan, the Collins Award, Tommy Keys, the Collins Award winner, Frank Hill, Andrew Riga. I mean, we've had like some really, really good guards. We've had some good men, Rich Sisson back in the early 90s. Andrew Vienna, Bradbury. I mean, we've had some, like, really, I don't want to leave anybody out. We've had some really good players because you don't win, players win for you, So, we've had some, been fortunate enough to coach some really good players. David Mello, one of my first years, I team David Mello. So, yeah, I mean, it's, I still see a lot of those guys, in touch with a lot of those guys. Yeah, I mean, players win you games, players make it fun. You can connect with your players and celebrate with them. That's the best feeling for me as a coach, especially after, you're busting their ass all the time. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to get there. You've got to be the bad guy sometimes, which I didn't really enjoy. But, you got to be hard sometimes. 16-year-old guys. Sometimes you got to get hard with them. And when you can do that, and then they get where you want to go, and they appreciate it, that's the best feeling.
As a coach, which I had never been, I think players, like, you were tough. We all know that. But if they knew you cared, that would make them play even harder. Am I correct?
Exactly. The mistake I made my first 2 years was I was too much of a hot ass. I was like, I was kind of like old school, like too old school, and I didn't connect. You know what I'm saying? I didn't connect. And I remember halfway through that first year, I was yelling at him. I had them all lined up, and I was yelling at him. And about halfway through, it like hit me like, man, these guys aren't even like listening to me. Like the heads are still like, and I was like, oh shit, I lost them. You know what I mean? Like I lost them because I didn't connect. And my father told me that. He said, Billy, you gotta know that you care. Once they know you care, they went to a wall for you.
It's true.
So I learned that my first year. The second year, I did a better job of connecting because I had some of those same guys back. But then once those guys left, and I had kids who just knew me as a varsity coach, it made it a lot better because I was better. I was better at connecting. I made sure I connected first, and then I busted ass. Which was a mistake I made my first year. Yeah.
How did you deal with how parents can be?
Well, Mike, I got to say, I didn't have. I used to hear the horror stories from the coaches. Coaches talk before games and stuff. You hear the horror stories. I mean, I had a couple parent things, but not a lot. Not a lot. I think at least I know behind my back, I'm sure there was complaining, but not to my face. And like I had really good support from my athletic director and my administration. When you have that, you have a big advantage as a coach, and that's becoming less and less situation. I see coaches out there that, parents, like, there are coaches now that parents are calling them and texting them after games. Like, that's insane to me. Like, that never happened to me. That would never happen to me. I would shut that down immediately. But what happens is if parents and coaches know parents and players know they have the athletic director's ear, and that if they complain, there's going to be something responded. Complaints about playing time or stuff, average stuff. Then you're going to have a problem as a coach. You're dealing with when I first started coaching, it was 80% basketball and then 20% other stuff, off the court stuff. Now it's the opposite.
Right.
It's 80% problems, issues, aggravation, and it's 20%
That's
coaching
true.
the game, you know? So it's like I wouldn't take another head job, right? I wouldn't take one right now. You know, right now I'm a varsity assistant at Stang, and I'm enjoying it. But I wouldn't want to have to deal with all the stuff that a head coach has to deal with today. And I really, up until a couple of years ago, I didn't have to deal with most of it because I was insulated. I had my own thing going. I was established, and so it was basically, hey, this is our coach. You got to deal with him. You know what I mean? Uh,
Mhm.
so I didn't have that issue. But I know if I got a job now, I'd have to deal with all this stuff that these guys
Mhm.
are dealing with, and
Mhm.
I just wouldn't be willing to do that. You know. I like to talk to my players. So when I used to give my preseason speech to the parents, I would tell them straight up, this is competitive basketball. There's a chance your son could practice all week and not play in the game. That could happen. I will be yelling at your son, I guarantee it. And I'll be yelling at all of them.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about your son. If there's something going on in his life that I need to know about, the sickness, divorce,
Ah,
something's going on, I want to know about that. But I will not talk to you about playing time or role on the team. I talked to your son about that. He knows why he's playing, why he's not playing. So that's off limits. And so once I do that, it pretty much quiets it down. You know what I mean? Like that was my preseason speech. You know, so what do parents complain about? They complain that the coach yells at their kid. I took care of that because I already told them I'm going to yell at your kid. So,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I'm going to yell at him. That's just, whatever I'm yelling at him. I told him 50 times. All right, so you know, it's not the first time I told him. Right, we practice 2 hours a day. You know what I mean? So I already told him that, and I already told him I'm not going to. It's playing time. I'm not going to talk to you about playing time. So as long as I don't put my athletic director in a difficult spot by putting my hands on a kid or throwing something at a
Right,
kid,
right, right.
or acting like an idiot, then you know you're okay if you have an athletic director that supports you. But I know that these days athletic directors, you know, they're under a lot of heat. You know,
Oh,
well, when
absolutely.
we played, Mike, you played for Coach O'Brien, right?
Oh,
Back
yeah.
in the 70s, coaches were tyrants. Like if
No
you
doubt.
dude, if your parent like went to the coach and talked to the coach, that was a kiss of death. That
Yes.
was like, dude, you're getting buried. That's not helping you. What are you doing? You know, like so it's totally flipped. Like parents feel this right, this right. I guess they think it's a right to go to the coach and you know, and again, part of the ownership thing is I have a video on my YouTube channel about, you know, 5 reasons why you should let your kid talk to the coach. I don't care if the kid's 10 years old. If the kid's 10 years old, teach him how to go talk to the coach. You know, it's always funny when people say, "Oh, well, that's the coach. How you can, you know, what can I do to get better?" You know, like that's such a bullshit question. Like to me, we all know how you get more playing time. Get better. You know what I mean? You know, be better shooter, be a better dribbler, be in better shape, have a better IQ. Just be better, man. What do you mean? What can I do to get more playing time? Come on, man. Like no one, like I figured it out myself, right? I was like, shit, I better get my ass in gear. And so I went and made 150 shots a day. I did something, right? So do something other than asking the coach, what can I do to get better? I mean, come on with that. I hate that question.
Now, Coach, before we get into your YouTube channel and what you're doing, because that video you put out was phenomenal. That's why I wanted you on the show. I've always wanted you. I've had Brian Baptiste, I've had Eddie Roderick, I've had, the whole gamut. And I asked them a question I'm going to ask you right now. Looking back on your coaching career, do you have any regrets?
Regrets? No, there's decisions I made in games that that were wrong. I mean, I wasn't perfect for 30 years, right? So yeah, you know, regrets as far as like, oh, I should have played this defense or that defense, or yeah, thousands of those. But regrets as far as like, I would say the only thing I would regret is what I mentioned earlier was like my first year, like those guys who played on that first team, like they paid a price for my ignorance. You know what I mean? Because I was a rookie coach and I made rookie mistakes, you know? So I regret that for them. But as far as like how I ran my program, um, you know, I mean, I was tough, you know, like I was tough, but I don't think I was unfair. You know what I mean? I tried to be fair. And so as far as like big regrets, like not like I was offered other coaching
That's
jobs.
kind of what I was talking about. It's kind of doing that too.
I don't regret any of that. You know, I always felt like this is where I belong. You know, when I was at Conley, it was like I got offered like a lot of money, like quadruple what I was making at Conley in the early '90s to go to another school district, and I didn't do it, and they couldn't believe it that I didn't take it. And I was like, they're like, "Oh, you're a hard negotiator," and I was like, "I'm not negotiating. I just I like where I am. You know what I mean? I belong where I am is this is where I belong. I just felt that. You know, I went to this school. I'm coaching here, comfortable here. I have everything that I want here. So you're going to give me more money. So what? You know what I mean? I didn't. It didn't really get me. So I don't regret that. And so no, I guess I don't have a lot of regrets other than like I said, the stupid decisions I made in game. You know what I mean? Where I'd be like, that was dumb. You know.
I want to interject. A good friend of mine, Mike Samuel, telling you hello. I know you know who he is.
Michael, yes. I got a good Mike Semio story if you want to hear it.
He's listening.
Is Mike listening?
He's
All right.
listening.
So back when I was trying to get good, right? So when I was in ninth grade, I read a story in the Standard Times about this eighth grader who was like so good and everything, and it was Mike Semio, right? Wow, this kid's good. He's in eighth grade. Wow, he's with you know. And writing a story about him. The kid's only in eighth grade. I'm like, wow. And so when I was trying to get good, they used to play games down at Purchase Street, that Purchase Street gym down in the Bedford Credit Union, down at the bottom of Max.
New Bedford Rec.
New Bedford Rec. There was a gym down there.
Yes.
So we used to pay a couple bucks, go down there and have pickup games. A lot of players down there. So one day I'm down there and Semio's there. And like he's killing people, you know, like he's like, you know, and like his handle was like so tight, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, the way his handles the ball and shit, you know, I'm like, wow. And then I noticed like when teams were playing, like you play a couple games and you'd have to sit. And you know, when you sit, right, that's what you do, right? Most people you sit. But Semio, I noticed Semio when everyone else was sitting, Semio was up and he had a ball and he was dribbling and he was doing his thing up and down. He was still watching the games that was going on, but he was moving. He was doing something.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there going, I should be doing that. That's what I should be doing. And so I didn't do it that day because I didn't want to look like a jerk, you know. But after that, every time I go to the boys' club, but every time I'd be in a pickup, I would work on my handle on the side like Semio was doing. So thanks for that, Mike. I appreciate it. Because my handle, I could shoot, but I had a shitty handle, you know. So I really needed to get my handle going, you know. And I was like, yeah, look at that kid's handle. Look what he's doing. And see, it's not that complicated to get better. You know what I mean? It's not that complicated. Like that day I learned from a kid who was a year younger than me. Right? I learned from him because, whoa, he's good. Well, how do you do that? Well, look what he's doing. So I just started doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not that complicated, you know?
We got a few minutes left, Coach. I want you to talk about your YouTube channel, talk about your videos, talk about the video when you talk about commitment and everything else that it entails.
Well, you know, Mike, I decided a couple years ago, you know, I started to put the channel together. I thought that, you know, how can I reach more kids, right? And I know a lot of these kids are on YouTube and stuff. So I started like doing these videos. And when I first started, man, let me tell you something. I couldn't even talk into the camera. I was like, oh wow, you know what I mean? But I worked like you would get better at sports. I started practicing and I started getting a little bit better. I mean, I'm no actor, but I can at least present myself on a camera and make a point, you know? So I started putting these videos together and then I published them in August of 2022. And then I ended up less than a month later, I got diagnosed. I had to have a quadruple bypass.
Oh, I didn't know
So,
that. I didn't
yeah,
know
so I
that.
had a quadruple bypass. So it kind of put the YouTube channel on the side for a bit. So it took me a while to get over that, and I had other stuff going on. But then I started to, start getting more back into it, and I did some more videos, and I actually just did a fresh batch. So I'm going to have more videos coming out next week. But I just thought, the mental part of the game. If you go on YouTube, you'll see a million dribbling videos, shooting videos, all that stuff. Uh, but the mental part, the attitude and approach part. When you get the
Huh?
attitude and approach right, everything else accelerates. You know what I mean? Like if you're there going, how come I'm not playing? How come this? And you're playing the victim, then you're not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you're looking at it like this is hard, man. Being in competitive sports, it's not easy. It's hard. So
Very.
you got to tell kids, man, this is not easy. This is hard. If you want to make it to even a high school varsity player, it is hard to get there. You know what I mean? And I see kids when they're 10 years old, I want to get a scholarship. Talking about a scholarship for a 10-year-old kid is so freaking crazy to me. It's like insane. I didn't even think about a scholarship till someone mentioned it to me when I was a junior in high school. They're like, "Hey, man, you can get a scholarship." I'm like, "What scholarship?" Oh, man, that's for really good guys, isn't it? I didn't even think I was that good. You know what I mean? Like that was for like up here. Now you got every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks they should get a scholarship. Not to mention the ridiculous situation with the NCAA and the NIL and 20
Oh,
guys playing college basketball, freaking mess. But anyway, what I tried to do is not just for the players, but I have a parent section. So the parents, like I know some really good people who were some really bad sports parents. You know what I'm saying? They're good people. They mean well, but they're taking a terrible approach with their kid. They're forcing their kid to do stuff. They're requiring stuff. They're focused on results and not the process. All the things that you don't want to do. So if people go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I have an ownership section. That's about how parents can talk to their kid and get their kid in a proper mindset so that they can actually enjoy the game. And then I have the players section where the players, listen, man, I'm just talking truth to you. Like if you want to play, you got to earn your coach's trust, and how to do it in practice and all the things that players need to know. The players section is the biggest section. And that's a section where if a kid got on there and really like listened to these videos and like thought this way, you'd have a huge advantage. Mike, I had such a huge advantage, Mike, because I would play against guys who were much more athletically gifted than I was. But I had the mental part of it.
that's true.
I could get through tough times. I could deal with playing against a guy that was bigger, quicker, stronger than me and try to figure out a way to, right. I didn't like cave in. I didn't like, that's what you're trying to develop in your kid. So like when I went to college and I had that full scholarship and they tried to take that away from me, right? That's where my competitive gene came in. Because I was like,
Mm.
you're not taking this from me.
Mhm.
I'm playing. Okay. I earned this. I am staying. You can do whatever you want. Let me tell you something. That guy tried everything in the book. We used to do he would put me, we'd do the depth chart. He wouldn't put me on the depth chart sometimes. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like stuff like that. A lot of psychological stuff. And I would just, doesn't matter to me. My mother would tell me, Billy, just come home. I said, no, Mom, I'm not coming home. I'm not coming home because why? Because that means he would win.
Yes,
He ain't
yes, yes,
beating
yes.
me. I'm winning. So I got a free year of college out of that. You know what I mean? And so that was that's the so most kids in that situation are going to play the victim. Oh, the players didn't even want me there. The players, because when the coach signed me, he told the players, "Oh, we got this hot shot from Massachusetts coming in." So I was like a threat, right? So the players didn't want me. The coach didn't want me. I'm like, I'm staying, bro. I got a free year of college here. I'm South End Fall River. I'm getting a free year of college. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. See, that's the mental toughness that kids can develop through sports if you give them ownership. My father would never talk to a coach, would never, ever, ever do that. It's all our business. You handle that. You handle that. You handle that. And I think if we let kids do that, what better place to learn life lessons than in youth sports, right?
Right.
You get the bad coach. Well, you might have the bad boss. Oh, you got the selfish teammate. Well, guess what? You're going to have a selfish coworker. Right? The boss's son got the job. Well, guess what? He might be playing shortstop too. Like all that, it's perfect. It's perfect. So why don't we expose our kids to that and teach them to overcome, right? Overcome that. Like I never had a problem with daddy ball. You know what I mean? Because I was better. Right. So in baseball, I didn't have to worry about that because there's 9 positions, man. I'm gonna play one of them. Unless the guy's got 9 kids, right? I'm gonna play one of them. You know what I mean? So I never worry. But when you're on the see, there's high usage players, right? There's the elite players, the MVP and the all-stars, and then everyone else is a role player. That's what kids don't understand. It's like in a basketball team, you might have 2 guys that you can't take out of the game. But everybody else is situational. What are we looking for? We're looking for defense, looking for size, looking for speed, we're looking for shooting, we're looking for whatever we're looking for. That's situational. So kids need to understand that. Why am I coming out? Well, because you're not the 1 or 2 best players on the team. So we're looking for a situation, you know? So I just think that on my YouTube channel, that's the purpose of it, is try to help parents help their kids like have the right mental attitude. And I also have a coaches section and try to help out like youth coaches, you know. So like I'll see I go to a CYO game, for instance, right? And we got 8-year-old kids out there who can't dribble, can barely reach the rim. And we got coaches and people screaming at them, you know, run the offense, run the offense. The kids are scared shitless out there. I see the parents, I don't remember this. Like when I went to games, like my mother would drop us off at the game and Mrs. Gallant would come pick us up. You know what I mean? Like my mother was like, okay, have a good game. She wasn't there in the stand screaming, Billy, shoot it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of wild to me because I always played my game. I never thought about like my parents or I never thought about that. But these kids today, how can they not think about it? Like they're literally screaming at them, you know. And the thing that's frustrating to me is that most of these kids don't have the skill or the ability to execute what they're trying to do. What the adults are asking them to do, you know. So I think that's where like kids, they're being rated on their performance, on the results. They don't have any skill. How can you know what I'm saying? It's like so they expect so much out of these kids before they're like 10 years old, you know. And I think it's that Tiger Woods syndrome. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we'll get them started at 2 years old. Let me tell you something, Mike. I didn't stop playing basketball until I was in 7th grade. You know that most of the guys who were all-stars in 7th and 8th grade in Fall River at that time never played varsity basketball because they were either, you know, physically already advanced and so they never grew, or a guy like me, like I've never played. I had never played. So when I was in 7th grade, like I wouldn't be in the top 100 like players in the CYO. But by the time I was in 10th grade, I was starting varsity. So like how many people did I pass up? Like hundreds. You know what I mean? So like just because your kid's 9 or 10 years old and he's really good doesn't guarantee anything.
Not
And
at
just
all.
because your kid's 9 or 10 years old and he's just starting, doesn't mean he can't be really good. But I have people, oh, I'm really worried. We had a late start. You got a late start. He's in the fourth grade. I'm like, he's in the fourth grade. That's not a late start. It's like, it's crazy to me the way people think about that, you know? So I'm trying to, with the YouTube channel, is I'm trying to advocate for the kids, but at the same time, you know, kids, you got to put the work in, man. Like, you can't like do what everybody else is doing and then think you're going to get more, right? So like when I decided that I was going to make 150 shots a day, most kids wouldn't do that,
Nope.
right? Most kids who, oh, I got to play baseball, I'll do that in June May when baseball's over. But like I knew, like, no, I got to do something now. Like I was like, I can do this shit now. Right? Like if somebody told me, my father said, Billy, go out there and make 150 shots a day, I'd be like, ugh. You know what I mean?
True.
But I was like grabbing the ball. I was doing it on my own. It's my thing. You know what I mean? So I think what happens is a lot of parents steal the joy away from it. They're not doing it intentionally, but they steal the joy from the kid because they're so focused on the result. You know, like my father used to ask me after every game, me and my brother, you have fun? You have fun? Win or lose, you have fun? Then I remember when I was in high school, I told him, Dad, don't ask me that no more. After the losses, you know what I mean? Like that. I'm not 10 years old, man. No, I didn't have fun. You know what I mean? And he'd be like, all right, be miserable, Lynn. He'd be like, all right, be miserable.
Do you think that parents are trying to live through their kids?
What's that?
Do you think kids?
I didn't catch the last part of that, Mike.
I know the phone rang. Do you think parents are living through their kids?
Oh, yeah. Some of them are. Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah. And probably more than has in the past. Yes, I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, yeah, I think it's pretty common, you know. Unfortunately, you know, I think it's a status thing, you know. I know, like for me, um, sports was status, right? Like when I was a kid, you in Fall River Lake, and I'm sure you were the same in New Bedford. You looked up to the great athletes, right?
Right.
You heard about the great athletes, right? I'm sure
Mhm.
you knew all the 60 athletes in the 60s in New Bedford and everything. You knew all these guys. You knew about them, and so in me, uh, I wanted to be one of them. Like I wanted that status. So I think that was my motivation, but it was my motivation. It wasn't my father going, you know, hey, you know, you got to do this so you can be. No, he just told us, look, you know, you don't have to play, but if you play, you know, the best players, you know, coaches want to win. The best players play. You got to work on your own, and if you don't play, it's fine. That was what we worked under, and we did more than like for baseball. I used to see kids who did more than me. So I have a video on my channel. It's the three levels of competition: interest, commitment, obsession. So interest, he's like, oh, I'm interested in playing. Commitment. So baseball, I went from interest to commitment right away. I was like 8 years old. I was committed to baseball. Like when I was 8 years old, I could field any ground ball. I could catch any pop up. I could do all these things. I was really advanced skill wise in baseball when I was 8 years old. But when it came to basketball, I wasn't. You know what I mean? So I had to like develop that. I had to like really develop my skill level in basketball. So I stayed in that commitment level, but I would look and I would see guys that, wow, that guy works harder than me. That guy works harder than me. Like you see guys, all baseball players, they're taking extra hitting, they're doing extra. Especially when I got to be like 13, 14. Like, wow, that kid's serious. Well, he's more serious than me. But it didn't bother me. I just did what I was going to do. But basketball, I went from interest to commitment to obsession. So in baseball, I never got to obsession. Okay. Basketball, I got to obsession like pretty quickly. Like that first summer, that ninth grade, when I did that 150 shots a day and I got, to the middle of that summer, I was a different player. That's when my obsession set in because I was like, hey man, I'm gonna do more of this. If I do more of this, I'm gonna be even better. And it was summertime. Dude, I was making 500 a day. Making. No, I was like serious. Like my friends were like, "You're crazy." You know what I mean? My friends, I'd be like, "I'll catch you later." You know what I mean? Like, where you going? Like, they try to work out with me. After like 20 minutes, they'd be like, "Oh, how much longer?" I'd be like, "Bro, that's my warm up. What are you talking about?" So like they even stopped even trying to hang with me when it came to, "Look, I'm gonna work out." You're like, "All right, see you later, man." You know what I mean? So that was me. That
Right.
was me. You know what I mean? It wasn't somebody. That's what happens when you have ownership and you're self-motivated. You know what I mean? I was self-motivated. And I think that's another thing on the YouTube channel is I try to teach parents how to find the right button to push, how to, when you're a parent or you're a coach and it comes to sports, you're a salesman. You have to sell these kids. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, why should I bust my ass? Well, you don't have to, but if you want to play varsity, or if you want to, you want stories in the newspaper about you. You want to be an all-star. You want to be recognized. Then this is what you need to do. And if you don't, then that's fine. So that's what I'm trying to do with the channel is try to give parents a resource, coaches a resource, and most importantly, the players a resource to go to see somebody that's like I've done it as a player. Like I wasn't someone who was just naturally gifted. Right. I wasn't like, oh, he's 6'5", he's 6'6", I was a freshman in high school. I scored 2 points a game. Okay. And I ended up the all-time leading scorer. Okay. So I had to do something, right? So something changed, right? So I didn't grow a foot. I just worked on my skills. I practiced, I worked, I had the right mentality. That type of stuff. And that's what I'm trying to help the kids. So as a coach, when I coached for 40 years, my most satisfying thing was connecting with a freshman and watching that kid grow through 4 years into a accomplished varsity athlete. I mean, it's a great thing, but on the counter thing, the worst thing is having a freshman coming in who's got some ability and they just don't do the things necessary to get the success that they want. And so that's disappointing, but that's the key is the mental part, especially when kids get to high school, because everything ratchets up 2 hours a day practice. The coaches are more demanding, right? Everything's you're more tired. You got more studying to do. Everything's harder, So a lot of kids, if they don't own it, they start asking themselves, well, why am I doing this? Why am I listening to this coach? Why am I? If it's not their own, if their answer is, well, because my parents want me to. See, there's a thing like that people really don't get, and anybody that's watching this, I hope the one thing that they get this. When kids are young, 8, 9, 10 years old, for the most part, they want to please their parents, right? They're trying to please their parents. They want their parents' approval. When kids get to 13, 14, 15, oh, they're not interested in what the parents are thinking, right? That's why they're like, they're teenagers.
Yeah.
They do what they want.
Right.
Right? Wait a minute.
True.
Why are they doing what this person wants all the time?
That's true.
I'm 14. I don't want to do that no more. That's what happens. So when you got an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, you're like, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that, requiring this and you got to do that. There's going to be that day. Get ready for it. When they're 15, they go, yeah, I quit.
That's going to happen. That's going to happen.
That's why it happens, because they don't own it. They start asking themselves, why am I doing this? I'm doing it for them? Why?
Yeah.
Why? No.
It's time for us to go, and I'm so happy you came on my show, and I think it's so important what you have to say. So can you let the viewers know, because my show's seen all over the country, can you let the viewers know how they can go to your YouTube channel? Because I think parents, players, everybody needs to watch them videos.
Great, Mike. I appreciate that. Well, if you go to my website, which is committtocompete.com, that's with a 2, like commit, the number 2, compete.com. If you go to my website, you'll see I have the YouTube channels there. I have a newsletter that's available, a free newsletter. And then you can hit the YouTube, you can subscribe to the YouTube, and they're all there. Like I said, I'm going to be doing some fresh videos, going to be dropping next week. I also have a Commit to Compete Facebook page that you can go to. All that stuff's on my website. And like I said, it's an Instagram. I got some shorts coming out, so there'll be plenty of stuff coming out, which I hope people will take the time to look at, and I think it'll add some value to your child's sports experience.
Well, Coach, again, I want to thank you for coming on my show. It's been a pleasure. Reliving some old memories. So I want to thank you for coming on my show, my friend. Take care. God bless. And I might have you come on again. Who knows?
I'd love to, Mike. I'd love to. Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. Folks, that was my man, Coach William Shea, here on the Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Wave Network. I told you the guy is something else. Go to his YouTube channel. He don't play. It's a good thing for the parents, players, and getting the mental. Remember what I talked about, the ride back home. The ride back home. Y'all got to tune in to his YouTube channel, Coach William Shea, and check it out, because it's going to be worthwhile for coaches, learning how to deal with kids and how to approach kids, whether it be a good game or a bad game. Parents, very important that parents tune in and check it out as well. So again, I want to thank my man, Coach William Shea, for coming on my show. And it's been an honor. I'm learning some things when having him coming on my show. So folks, again, I want to thank you all for tuning into my show, Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Wave Network. And of course, I got to give thanks to my producer, the one and only Key Williams. So folks, stay tuned next week when we're going to have another great, outstanding guest. So folks, take care. God bless. See y'all next week.